Welcome everyone to an overview on how to apply to jobs using online job applications. Applying to jobs online can be very confusing and time consuming, but there are some basic tips and tricks you can use to prepare yourself for the applications. Each company that you apply for will probably have a different application. Most applications have some basic key components to them, but they can definitely vary from job to job. So don't expect every application to be the same or to have the same content that you're going to be filling out. They're going to be different depending on the company, but there are definitely certain things that I'll be showing you that are pretty basic from each application. So before we actually get into showing you a real-time online application, there are some online application tips and tricks that I wanted to go over with you. So number one, read job descriptions. So you want to take the time to understand exactly what the company expects from applicants for jobs that interest you. Do not ignore the detailed description of what the job entails. You want to read through the details to understand the job requirements. And I'll be showing this to you when we do an example later on. Number two, identify keywords and tailor your resume. Take your time and look over your resume. You want to find the key words in the job description and make sure you indicate how your accomplishments actually address the requirements. Be sure to customize your resume slightly to each specific job. So when you're looking over the job descriptions, you want to take those key words that are in the job descriptions and make sure they're on your resume. If a job is asking you for communication, to have strong communication and interpersonal skills, you want to make sure that's located somewhere on your resume. If a job is asking that they'd prefer someone who's bilingual, and if you're bilingual, you want to make sure that's under your skills on your resume because that makes you stand out and helps the job look at your resume and pull you in for an interview. Number three, continuously check to make sure your responses are error-free. So with digital applications, any errors are going to live on at that company on the website. So that might potentially hurt your chances for a relationship with the employer in the future as well. Number four, maintain one user profile per company. So when you're applying for certain jobs, companies like Target or Chipotle use an online system where you must first create an account with a username and password before actually getting to the application. Remember to write down your username and password so that you only have one master profile for all of your applications for that company. Multiple profiles can cause confusion and it can also keep you from getting a job at that company in the future. So if you're on the Target website and you want to apply for a bunch of different positions, maybe at different targets in your local area, if you have multiple profiles with the same name and address, that's going to confuse Target when they're actually looking through your application and pulling out applications for interview. So you want to make sure you keep the one profile so that that's the profile you use when applying to multiple different jobs at the company. Number five, you want to make sure you fill out all the fields within the application process. So again, applications can be tedious, so you definitely have to have patience when filling it out. By filling out every field, you are not just giving information that can make you stand out from the competition, and you want to stand out because that's how you get an interview and hopefully a job, but also demonstrating your interest and desire for the job. Many recruiters just skip over candidates who don't actually complete their applications. So if they skip you over, again, less likely to get an interview, less likely to land the job. So some key things to note are be reasonable when you ask, if they ask for salary. So $15 per hour is actually the minimum wage, and that's the usual salary that you will be getting per hour when working in retail or food services. When asked to put when you are available, so usually most job applications are going to ask you for salary and when you are available, which you'll see later when I show you. Usually you want to put 6 hours on Saturday, Sunday, and 4 hours on school days. Because most of you are under 18 years old, there are set restrictions on how many hours you can work per week while you're in school. School comes first and work comes second. So you're only going to be working part-time unless it's the summer months. In the summer, you're allowed to work full-time, but if you're under 18 and it's during the school year, you're only allowed to work up to 20 to 25 hours per week. And that's also why you have working papers as well, to prevent you from working overtime when you're in school. If you're over 18, it's a different story, but still, school comes first. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about your availability. So a really important thing to note is to clean up your social media profile. So jobs will search for you on Google and social media before offering you an interview. So you want to make sure that you don't have anything online that might prevent you from gaining employment. If you would not want a teacher, counselor, parents, or a guardian seeing what you posted, it's best not to post it. So I would say when at all possible, keep all of your social media private. You don't want any inappropriate public images or content. A good way to see what other jobs might be able to see about you is to Google yourself. So what do you see? Do you see something that might be a little bit nerve-wracking? Are you a little bit concerned? So whatever you see, you want to remember that your potential job will see it too. So make sure if you do see something that you think might hinder you from getting an interview, you want to remove that and take it down. Because again, if you can search it, the job will be able to search it too. Again, when at all possible, make all of your social media profiles private. I understand that at times, people have certain fun businesses on social media. They might have a fun Instagram page they want to keep public for certain likes, or maybe they get clothes from it or shoes. That's fine, but you need to make sure that your content remains open and appropriate for jobs that are going to see that, because anything that's public, everyone can see, your job can see it, it can hinder you from getting employment. So you really have to remember that. So lastly, you always want to remember to review all your info before hitting submit. So take a final look at all the content you provided. Keep in mind that once you hit that button, your information is sent to the job directly. So this is now a first impression that you're giving to the job along with your resume, which is really important because again, this is going to determine if they want to call you in for an interview. So make the best one possible when you're actually applying. Usually jobs will contact you for an interview anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. It usually can take some time. If you don't hear a response back, you can always check in on the company profile on the website that you applied to see if they have actually filled the position. Unless you get an interview, jobs don't usually like you contacting them to follow up on an application. So the best way to do that is check within their online systems. If you happen to get an interview for a job, which is great, then it's a whole different ball game, and we would be going over that in another video. So now that you know some of the tips and tricks to completing a job application online, I now want to show you a real life example of what a job application looks like. So as I go through it, remember the tips and tricks along the way that I taught you. Also note that this application I'm going to show you is pretty simple, and many other applications may take more time and not be as short. So some other things to note are to use the CYD job blast and websites like Indeed.com, Google, and Monster.com to search for potential job openings and for potential applications. So the job application we're going to look at today is for a sales associate position at Five Below retail store in Brooklyn, New York. So you'll see here that it has the status, which is part-time or full-time. This is a part-time job, which is perfect for high school students. It lists how available they want you to be, flexible, and it tells you what the sales associate will do, how they do it, and what the key responsibilities are. So as I mentioned in those tips and tricks, remember to read over all of the job description, all of the responsibilities, and see any keywords that they're including that you would want to include on your resume so that you have a better shot of landing an interview. So, for example, it says responsible for cash handling procedures, sets and maintains market plan and other merchandise directives, delivers exceptional customer service through personal contact with customers. So this right here, interacts and assists with customers, delivers exceptional customer service through personal contact. That means that somewhere on your resume, you want to show that you've had really good interpersonal or communication skills with diverse groups of people. So that doesn't mean it has to be customers, but that does mean it should be parents, teachers, other students through tutoring, through babysitting. So just any sort of communication or interpersonal skills that you've had with diverse groups of people. So different types of groups of people. So that's what I mean by if you see in the job description what they're asking for, you want to cater your resume to what they're asking for. It also lists the essential job functions. So it really tells you a good overview of what you will have to do in this job. They also have minimum qualifications. So creative thinking, ability to multitask. Again, this verbal and written communication skills. Communication skills are transferable across many different jobs. So it's really important that this is included on your resume in some form. And then at the bottom, apply here. So this will actually lead us to the application. So as I mentioned, a lot of companies might make you create a company profile. For Five Below, they don't. I also said this is a pretty easy application. It's easy because of that. You can just go to the website, search for jobs. You don't have to create a company profile, so there's no username and password. You just actually fill out the application for the location and the store and the job title that you want. So at the beginning of the application, they ask you for all of your personal information, which is typical of any application. So address, email, phone number. They tell you some information here about how they're an equal opportunity employer, which really means that regardless to race, religion, age, sex or sexual orientation, mental or physical disability, or any other status, they will not discriminate against anyone for a job. So every single employer should be an equal opportunity employer. That doesn't mean they always follow it, but this is something that you should always see on a job application, that they are an equal opportunity employer. So usually every job application has that in some form. Over here, they ask you to upload your resume and cover letter. If you do not have a cover letter, that's perfectly okay. Most of these retail jobs or food services jobs are not going to ask you for a cover letter and really just recommend your resume. But if you do want to upload a cover letter, it does give you more of a one-up in getting an interview. So that could be something that you contact the career office and we can help you with. You would attach your resume here. You'll see that you can select it. So you would want to have it saved on your desktop so that you can easily upload it. You would open and it would upload into here. So now your resume is attached and they'll be able to see it on their end. You can also put in the text of your resume. I recommend you attach it and upload it because it will keep the same format that you already have. Some general information. How did you hear about the job? Usually every single job asks this as well. You can put other online posting or other if you've heard of it from us at the career office. If you looked on any of those websites, I mentioned Indeed, Monster, there's Snag a Job. If you found it on social media, TV, so it's just asking you, how did you hear about it? Here's where you mention the date available to work. So if you're available as soon as possible, put the date as soon as possible. If you're applying for a job that you can't work at until the summer, say you apply at the end of the school year in May, you can't work until the end of June, then that's going to be the date available for work that you list. So this is really based on your availability. Have you ever applied for the job before? Yes or no answer. Have you worked for a company before? Yes or no. Do you have any relatives currently employed? So this is usually a question that most applications ask. The reason why they ask it is because if they did have a relative currently employed, they'll usually use that as a reference point to see if the other relative coming to work has the same work ethic or not. So that's usually why they ask this question. Are you at least 16 years old or 18? So again, for this job, you can be 16 years old and up. For most job applications, you have to be at least 16. Most of these retail and food services jobs do not hire students under 16, and that's because due to working papers regulations and state regulations, those under 16 can work even less hours than 16 and up. So 16 years old, you can work up to 20 to 25 hours per week, again, because of school during the school year. The reason they're asking if you're at least 18 is because 18 years old can work more hours than 16-year-olds. So they have a little bit more flexibility. And note here that as a minor, you have to provide the state paperwork, which is the working papers. So if you have any questions about needing working papers, you can contact me in the career office. This is desired salary again, $15 an hour, as I mentioned, is minimum wage. This question is asking if you are a citizen or legal alien who's authorized to work in the United States. So the reason they're asking this question is for tax purposes. If you are not a US citizen or you don't have legal status to work in the United States, you would put no, and this might be a job that you're unable to apply for. But any questions on this, please contact me in the career office and we'll explain to you the process and work that out. Are you available to work any shift or an overnight shift? So this is asking for that availability that I mentioned. As I said, during the school year, on school days, Monday through Friday, you really want to do only 4 hours. That might be more so in the evening, since during the day you have school. On weekends, it can be up to 6 to 7 hours because you have more time and you don't have school. And it's going to be part-time or seasonal for those of you under 18 who are still in school. I would say do not work an overnight shift because, again, school comes first. Working an overnight shift will mean you might not make it to school the next day and you'll be really exhausted. So I would say that you're not available to work any shift. You cannot work the overnight shift. You're still showing the flexibility that you have as a minor, as someone that's under 18, but it's not as flexible as someone that is not going to school. But school does come first. They ask your level of education, so it would be attending or attended high school. If you are in college watching this video, it would still be attending or attended high school, unless you already have your undergraduate degree, which is your college degree. This is asking now for previous work experience. So basically the section looks very similar to what you already have on your resume. So it's really just a copy and paste. So you would take what's on your resume and put that info into here, into the job experience they're asking for. Sometimes when you upload your resume to certain job applications, they'll actually already pre-fill this out for you. That depends on the company and the website. It's not every single job. Otherwise, you can just copy and paste from your resume. When they ask maybe contact, if you're currently working somewhere, I would say that currently you might not want them to contact them because you may not want the job to know that you're looking for other work. So you could put later that they can contact them at another time. Otherwise, it's always good for you to say yes, that they can contact the employer, because when they do contact them, that's able to that's something that shows them that you have really good work ethic and that they'll want to call you in for an interview. So it kind of gives you, again, a one-up for getting an interview if they have this knowledge of how you've worked in other settings. All of these do not have to be filled out. It's really, if you only have one previous work experience, put it here. If you have no previous work experience, you can check this off and that completely goes away. So that's fine. If this is your first job you're applying for, you have no work experience, you can also check this and you don't have to put in previous work experience. They ask about military service. So if you have ever been in the military, if you're out of high school, currently in the military, you just put yes or no. And then the last section of this application, besides your signature, are your references. So references are people that the job wants to contact in order to see your working abilities and your work ethic. So a reference might be a teacher, a former colleague, a former boss, a counselor. So all of these people are able to speak on your work ethic and how well you do in a work environment, how well you communicate with others, how well you collaborate and work well with others. So in getting references, the job is able to see if what type of worker you might be. And through seeing that, through getting other people's opinions of you, they're more likely to call you in for an interview and see if you're a good fit for the job. So it's always good to have at least 3 references that you can think of and know about. They ask for their name, the relationship, their title, phone number, and email, and the years known. So if you have any questions about how to think about references or if you need any references, again, you can contact me in the career office. And the last section is just the applicant's signature. So you would check that off, submit, and the application would then submit to the company and you should get an email as well to your email account. I would keep following up, looking at your email, going back into the system, seeing where the job application is, if it's been filled yet, as a way to follow up. So that's the general gist of how to do an online job application. I know it's a little bit complicated, it's a little bit tedious, but I do hope that this was helpful for you. If you do have any other questions, you can contact myself or Miss Gabby in the career office and we'll help you look for jobs, we'll help you fill out a resume, and we'll also help you with these online job applications as well.